My friend, let's begin with a truth so simple, yet so often forgotten. You are far more capable than you believe yourself to be. Every person carries within them a spark of light that can ignite entire worlds of possibility. Yet for many that light is dimmed, not because life has taken it away, but because doubt has whispered louder than faith. You see, the greatest prison a human being can live in is the belief that they are not enough, that they lack the power, the intelligence, the worth to rise beyond their current state. But belief, self-belief, is the master key that unlocks that prison door. When you believe in yourself, even imperfectly, you awaken forces within that begin to rearrange the universe around you. Opportunities appear where once there were none. Strength rises in moments when you thought you had none left, and suddenly you find yourself walking paths that once terrified you to even imagine. But belief is not arrogance. It is not blind optimism or delusion. It is an understanding, a quiet, grounded knowing that within you lies the ability to learn, to grow, to fall and rise again and again and again. True belief is not about being unbreakable. It's about knowing you can heal after every break. It's about trusting that no matter how many times life tests you, you will find your way through. So ask yourself, when did you stop believing? When did you start thinking that the dream you once had was too far away, that your voice didn't matter, that your potential was somehow smaller than another's? Somewhere along the line, the world may have taught you to doubt yourself, maybe through failure, maybe through comparison, maybe through voices that told you you weren't good enough. But belief, my friend, is not given to you by others. It is reclaimed fiercely, intentionally from within. There is something sacred about deciding today that you will trust yourself again. It's like planting a flag in the bow's ground of your own soul and saying, I may not have all the answers, but I will not doubt my ability to find them. Do you understand how powerful that is? When you make that decision, your inner world begins to shift. You start to carry yourself differently. You start to speak differently. And life, being the mirror that it is, reflects that new energy right back to you. Think of every person who ever changed the world. They were not born knowing they could. They believed they could. And that belief, often fragile, often tested, became the foundation upon which they built their destiny. Self-belief is not a gift you stumble upon. It is a practice you build through action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen it. Every time you rise after failure, you reinforce it. And every time you dare to take a step toward what scares you, you prove to yourself that you can trust your own courage. Belief is like a muscle unused. It weakens, tested, it grows. So perhaps today your task is not to achieve something extraordinary, but simply to believe in the possibility that you can. That's where every great transformation begins, not in the outer world, but in the quiet conviction within your own mind. You do not need the world's approval to believe in yourself. You do not need to see the full path before you start walking. You simply need to begin, because self-belief doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence, the willingness to stand where you are and declare, I am capable, and I will find my way. Remember this, self-belief is not built by waiting for evidence. It is built by acting in faith before the evidence appears. That is the paradox and the magic. When you believe first, the proof follows. The world cannot reflect a belief you do not hold. And so, as you listen now, I want you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what would my life look like if I truly believed in myself? Not halfway, not conditionally, not just on good days, but fully, completely, unshakably. You would speak differently, you would move differently. You would face your fears with a quiet smile instead of a trembling heart. You would no longer wait for the perfect moment because you would know that you are the moment. That is the power of self-belief. It turns ordinary days into stepping stones of destiny. It transforms hesitation into motion, confusion into clarity, and fear into fire. This is where your awakening begins. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into how to rebuild that belief when it feels broken, and how to anchor it so deeply within you that no circumstance can shake it again. My friend, if you truly wish to rise, then we must speak about rebuilding, because belief is not a gift that stays unbroken. It's a living force that must be nurtured, healed, and guarded. Every wound, every disappointment, every betrayal can weaken your faith in yourself unless you learn how to turn pain into power. So let's begin here. There will be seasons when you forget your worth. There will be moments when the voice of doubt feels louder than truth. But remember this, the presence of doubt does not mean the absence of belief. It only means your belief is being called to grow stronger. We often think confidence is something we either have or don't, but in reality, self-belief is built the same way we build trust with another person through consistent, honest action. You begin by keeping promises to yourself, small ones, quiet ones. When you say you'll wake early and you do, you strengthen your integrity. When you say you'll face a fear and you take that trembling first step, you prove your courage to your own soul. Every small act becomes a vote for the person you're becoming. The opposite is also true. When you break too many promises to yourself, you chip away at your own trust. You begin to doubt not because you lack ability, but because your word has lost its weight in your own mind. So, if you want to rebuild belief, start there. Start with truth. Start with one promise that you keep, even if it's small. Because self-belief does not return through grand declarations. It returns through quiet consistency. There is power in remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. That childlike certainty, that fearless curiosity still lives in you. It has not disappeared. It has only been buried under years of noise. And you can return to it slowly by turning inward and asking, what did I once believe about myself before fear took the microphone? Perhaps once you believed you could create something beautiful. Perhaps you believed you could love without fear. Perhaps you believed that your dreams mattered. Those beliefs were not childish illusions. They were your soul's original truth. And your work now is not to invent new strength, but to remember the strength you already have. But belief cannot live in a heart that constantly compares itself to others. Comparison is the thief of both peace and progress. When you measure your journey by someone else's map, you will always feel lost. You are not meant to walk their path. You are meant to master your own. Every soul has its own rhythm, its own timeline, its own lessons. What is slow for one may be perfect for another, so stop asking if you're behind. You are not behind, you are becoming. Let me tell you something the world rarely says. Self-belief is not about never feeling doubt, it's about not letting doubt have the final word. It's about saying, I hear you, fear, but you will not decide for me. That's where power lives, in the decision to act, even when the mind trembles. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move despite it, and that choice, repeated daily, becomes the foundation of unshakable belief. There will come days when you must hold faith like a flame in a storm, shielding it with your hands while the wind howls. But know this, the very act of protecting that flame strengthens it. Every challenge you face becomes a test of how much you trust yourself. Every setback is a sacred invitation, an opportunity to say, I still believe. Because belief is not built in comfort. It's forged in the fires of uncertainty, when everything in you screams to give up, but some quiet whisper insists you keep going. That whisper, that's your soul speaking. That's the voice of your highest self, the one who already knows you're capable, who already sees the victory beyond the struggle. So listen to that voice more often, feed it with evidence. When you overcome something, acknowledge it. Don't dismiss your wins as luck or coincidence. They are proof that your belief works. Celebrate them. Let them remind you that you have walked through storms before and still found your way. And let me share a secret: belief grows faster in movement than in waiting. Don't wait until you feel confident to act. Confidence doesn't precede action, it follows it. You act first, you stumble, you learn, you adapt. And through that process, your belief evolves from fragile hope into embodied knowing. You may fail. In fact, you will fail. But failure does not diminish your worth, it refines it. Every failure carries a hidden lesson, every detour a deeper truth. The only real failure is to stop believing in your ability to rise again. My friend, you are the author of your belief. You write it daily with your choices, your words, your persistence. The question is not, do I have what it takes? The question is, Will I continue to believe even when it hurts, even when it's slow, even when no one else does? That's the kind of belief that moves mountains. So tonight, when the noise of the world fades and it's just you and your thoughts, place a hand on your heart and whisper, I am still here. I am still capable. I still believe. That is where transformation begins, not in the noise of achievement, but in the quiet of self-trust. And in part 3, we will journey into the deeper layers of self-belief, how to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions so completely that you no longer chase confidence, but become it. My friend, by now you have begun to sense it that self-belief is not merely an idea or an attitude, but an energy, a living current that flows through every part of your being. It begins in the mind, but it must descend into the heart and then extend into action. Only when thought, emotion, and behavior move in the same rhythm does belief become unstoppable. You see, many people believe with their minds, yet doubt with their hearts. They speak words of confidence, but their emotions still carry the memory of failure, rejection, or fear. And when the mind says, I can, but the heart whispers, I'm afraid, the universe responds to the whisper, not the shout. Because belief is vibration, it's the frequency of certainty that radiates from you, even when you say nothing at all. So, how do we align it all? How do we make our thoughts, emotions, and actions sing the same song of belief? It begins with awareness. You cannot transform what you refuse to see. Every time you feel fear, self-criticism, or hesitation, pause and witness it without judgment. Ask yourself, is this voice the truth, or just an echo of old wounds? Most of our self-doubt is inherited from experiences that once made us feel small, powerless, unseen. But those experiences were chapters, not your entire story. When you look at them with compassion instead of shame, you reclaim their power. Awareness gives you choice, and choice, my friend, is freedom. The next step is emotional alignment, because belief cannot coexist with self-neglect. You must learn to treat yourself with the same love, patience, and encouragement you offer to those you care for. Speak kindly to yourself. Uplift yourself when you falter. Too often we become our own worst enemy, attacking ourselves for mistakes, shaming ourselves for fear, forgetting that growth takes time. Let me tell you a truth few dare to say. You cannot hate yourself into success. You cannot despise your way into greatness. The energy of self-criticism will never build what only self-compassion can sustain. Real belief blooms in kindness, in understanding that you are both the work in progress and the masterpiece at once. So love yourself even when you're uncertain. Encourage yourself even when you're tired. Forgive yourself, especially when you fail. That emotional safety is the soil where belief takes root. Then comes action, because belief without movement is a seed that never breaks the soil. You strengthen belief not by repeating affirmations, but by embodying them. When you act in alignment with your truth, your nervous system learns to trust you. You no longer have to convince yourself you can. Your body begins to know it. Every act of courage, no matter how small, sends a signal, I am capable. Every honest conversation, every risk taken, every step forward reinforces the message that you are someone who shows up for yourself. That's how belief becomes identity, when you've lived it often enough that it stops being a concept and becomes who you are. Now listen closely. Life will test that belief, not to break it, but to strengthen it. You'll face moments that seem to contradict everything you've worked for, moments when your plans crumble, when people doubt you, when nothing makes sense. But those moments are the gymnasium of the soul. That's where your belief gets its muscle. That's where your faith learns to stand on its own, without proof, without applause, without comfort. When you face those moments, remind yourself this is not the end, it's training. This challenge is not punishment, it's preparation. Every obstacle is shaping you into the version of yourself who can handle the life you've been asking for. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me, ask, what is this building within me? And when you begin to think that way, even pain becomes purposeful. Every scar becomes a medal. Every fall becomes a lesson in strength. You stop fearing struggle because you know it does not define you, it refines you. Self-belief also requires protection. You must guard your mind from the voices that feed doubt. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every criticism reflects your truth. Be mindful of who you allow near your dreams. Surround yourself with those who remind you of your potential, not your limits. Protect your energy as fiercely as you would a sacred flame because it is. And finally, remember this: belief is not static, it evolves as you evolve. What you once thought impossible will one day become your new normal, and then you will dream bigger. The journey of self-belief never ends because growth never ends. One day you will look back and realize that the version of you who once trembled at the starting line is gone, replaced by someone who stands tall, someone who trusts their own hands to shape their destiny. You'll understand then that belief was never about proving anything to the world. It was always about remembering who you already were: capable, worthy, whole. So let me ask you, my friend, what if you stopped trying to become confident and simply started acting like someone who already is? What if you began every day with the thought, I have everything I need within me to take the next step? Because you do. You always have. In the next part, we will explore how to live from that state of unwavering belief, how to sustain it in chaos, radiate it through your presence, and inspire it in others. My friend, now we arrive at the heart of it all, the living expression of self-belief. You've walked with me through the roots of doubt, through the rebuilding of trust, through the alignment of heart and action, and now it's time to step fully into the life that such belief creates. Because self-belief, when it matures, becomes something far greater than personal confidence. It becomes presence. It becomes a way of being that speaks louder than words. You walk into a room and the air shifts, not because you are louder, not because you are seeking attention, but because your energy carries certainty. You no longer try to convince anyone of your worth. You embody it. That's what belief does. It makes peace visible. When you truly believe in yourself, you stop rushing, comparing, or proving. You realize there's no finish line to chase, only a deeper expression of who you already are. Life stops being a competition and becomes a collaboration with your own potential. You begin to move with purpose, not pressure, with faith, not fear. But let's be honest, even the strongest belief will face storms. There will still be days when your mind wavers, when your confidence flickers like a candle in the wind. And that's all right, because the goal is not to never fall, it's to never forget that you can rise. You see, self-belief is not a constant high. It's a rhythm: inhale, exhale, rise, rest, doubt, remember. It breathes with you. What matters is that every time it fades, you know how to bring it back. When you lose faith, return to your truth. Return to the small evidence of your own resilience, the things you've already overcome, the challenges you've already endured. Speak your story back to yourself until you feel its power again. Your past victories are reminders that you have always been capable, even when you didn't see it then, and then live from that place. Let your belief be visible in how you speak to others, how you treat yourself, how you face uncertainty. Let your actions declare your faith louder than your words ever could. Self-belief, when lived deeply, becomes service, because when you believe in yourself, you give permission for others to believe in themselves too. Your light doesn't cast shadows, it awakens other lights. Every person who dares to trust their own voice strengthens the collective confidence of humanity. And that, my friend, is the hidden beauty of it all. Self-belief is never just about you. It's about the lives you touch, the courage you inspire, the hope you ignite simply by standing tall in your own truth. So as we come to the close of this reflection, I want to leave you with something simple, something you can carry through every season of your life. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not too late, too small, or too unprepared. You are exactly where you need to be to take the next step. Do not wait for the world to validate your potential. The world will mirror your own conviction. Believe first, act boldly, speak gently, keep promises to yourself, and trust that everything you seek is already unfolding through you. Every time you choose belief over fear, you shift your destiny by a degree, and one day you'll look back and realize that those tiny choices created an entirely new life. So walk forward, not with arrogance, but with peace, not to prove your worth, but to live it. And when you doubt, as every human does, remember this voice, these words, this moment. Remember that belief is not something you earn. It's something you awaken. You have always had it. You simply needed to remember. Go now live as someone who believes, truly believes in their own light, because the world needs exactly that light. It needs you.